Hi, welcome to Pause Uni's For Students by Students podcast. I'm your host Nola, and this is a podcast where we have student-led conversations about mental and emotional health. On this episode, one of our practitioners, Joe, sits down with international student Enne, and they discuss different life transitions. Some of those transitions might be moving from one country to go and study in another, moving out of your parents' house and living in a shared house for the first time, or maybe it might even be changing the course that you are doing at university. Stay tuned, and I really hope you get something.
Hello everyone, this is Joanne from the Children's Society, Pause Uni. I'm very happy to have Enne with me today. Hello Enne, you okay?
Yeah.
Right, so what we're going to talk about today is, the topic is quite similar to us, like it's quite relevant to both of us. So let's talk about the life transitioning. All right.
Yep.
So we're trying to talk about like what life transitioning means to us, but first thing first, we're going to have the definition of it. So life transition means the process of changing from one state to another. And what do you think about it?
Yeah, I think this definition is quite good. It encompasses a lot of things. So some people think that life transition is more just about like going to university, moving away from home, which I think it is an important part of life transitions, and it's something that is quite overwhelming. But at the same time, I think my personal experience with life transition also includes things like changing from school to work, because I took a gap year between college and university. So I had to transition from school to work, and then now I have to transition back to school mode, like going back to university. And also even smaller things like changing schools and being a new kid at a new school. I think these are all like small transitions that people go through like throughout the periods of their lives. So.
Yes, I do agree with you. Life transitions just happening around all of us is from different states of our life. It can be like transitioning from when you're doing your like a baby and transitioning to toddler and going to primary school and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So it could have a lot of definitions to different people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, from my point of view, like being like transition, sometimes it could be the thing like a big change, or it could be like a small change as well. Just for example, like myself, I'm the person like moving from Hong Kong over to Britain like a few years ago. I do think that it's quite a big change for me, and I've never thought of it would happen on me. Especially it's going to happen for the whole family. And then, so what about you? Is it the first time you come over to Britain?
Yeah, it's actually a really big transition for me as well. So I've been in Singapore my whole life, and then I came to the UK just this year for university. So it is really big change, but I think it's a bit different for me, because you said for you, you never expected it to happen, but it was always a childhood dream for me to study overseas. So it's something that I've been more excited about rather than like stressed or worried about. But obviously, dreaming about it and actually doing it is quite different.
Yes, for sure. And so that's why I want to ask you a question. There are lots of students think that like maybe transitioning from one state to another can be very overwhelming. And there are some research showing the students going into the university may experience a lot of like homesickness, or maybe finding difficult to engage with the people. Like, can you share with me your experience?
Yeah, I think when I first came to university, I think it was really odd because I expected myself to be stressed. Everyone was telling me like, oh, don't miss home too much. You can always text us. You'll be sad, but it's okay.
They just worry about
they worry. But then when I came here, I was like, oh, it's so fun. It's so exciting. It's so interesting. And I did like think about my friends and my family for a bit. And like, obviously the weather's really different because Singapore's really hot. And the UK is so cold.
Yeah,
the weather's
wet
so different.
All the time.
It's really wet. It's really cold. But I thought it was like all exciting, and it was Freshers Week as well. So there was just a lot of things happening. It was really busy. You're always meeting new people. So I think I didn't really have the time to feel too much like stress or overwhelmed or homesick at the point in time. So it only came about more slowly afterwards, as I was like realizing for a bit that actually I'm kind of alone, because I don't really have. Like, obviously, I met new people, but we're not close yet because I just met them like a week ago, right? And then, obviously, I'm not as close to my friends from home because we're not seeing each other so often. So that's where some of like the loneliness started to kick in, and I'll think a bit more about home. But I think because of university life, very soon you just get pulled into everything else, like having to work on assignments, and sometimes you don't really have the space to think about it, which I guess is good, but it's also not very healthy sometimes.
Yes, right. You just remind my experience when I was like in the university as a very fresh fresh student, because I remember when I was entered to the university on the very first year, I joined a lot of different societies, and I've came across a lot of new people, and I just all of a sudden found that my phone book, the telephone number put it in my phone is just searching from like maybe 10 up to 100. But honestly, after maybe a month or two, then I found that I'm not really contacting them.
Yeah.
They just stay in my phone book. I don't even remember their name sometimes afterwards. And then there's a little bit interesting fact that I found from the Gov.uk. They said the research shows that homesickness doesn't kick in during the first few weeks of the term, and during the freshers when the adrenaline is high, but rather on average during November. So around the time, like after all the freshers week finish, and then probably you feel a little bit like, oh, I have to go back to the work and then start to study and all stuff. Then you feel a little bit like lonely, or maybe you just miss your home.
Yeah.
Did you have the same feeling?
So that's kind of what I was sharing about just now as well. I definitely felt that way because everyone is kind of different, and I think for me the thing that made me feel most homesick was like food and also the weather, because that's the biggest thing. So definitely I cook myself and I enjoy cooking, but there are certain things like in Singapore that you can't really cook yourself as well, or like you can't find certain ingredients in the UK, and you're like, oh, I really want to like I just want to go to a hawker centre in Singapore and then order my char kway teow, like fried noodles and things like that.
For sure.
So I think I tried to minimize that by I actually packed stuff from Singapore, like chili sauce, like certain bottles and stuff that I was worried I wouldn't be able to find here, and I was able to cook some of that, so I think that helped. But also then, like, certain things can't really be replaced, like having meals with your family, seeing some friends in person. But I think it does help to have little things like that.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. Like, food is something that really, really helpful for us to link up with the home family, or maybe a hometown or whatever. It's just link up all the memories in the past. And for example, like myself, I'm not very good cook before I'm moving over here. I still try to cook as a mom. I need to cook. But then I gradually found that there are lots of the taste that you find in your hometown, for example, from Hong Kong, I cannot find over here.
Yeah.
Even I go to a restaurant, it's still the same thing, but it's not the home taste. Yeah, exactly. It's not the taste that your mom-in-law is trying to cook for you like every day before, and then whenever you want to have those kind of taste, that you have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Even it's the very simple like steamed chicken.
Yes.
You find it, you take it for granted when you're in your home country, or maybe your hometown, staying with your family. But now if you want to try it, you need to make it.
Yeah.
And how are you going to settle down with the whole chicken and try to do all the things? Then you start to learn, you start to like mapping, like what should we try to overcome and what. But I think it's a very good learning process.
Yeah.
Because we learn not being like a grown-up, but we're trying to learn to live with the challenges happening at home, or all the things that we've been facing during the transition.
Yeah.
So I mean, back to the things that we're talking about, like it's not easy. It's uneasy to transition from one stage to another, and it could be overwhelming. Yes, sometimes it's a little bit like overwhelming, but at the very beginning, it feels like the honeymoon stage.
Yeah, there's definitely a honeymoon stage.
Yes, honeymoon stage. But I mean, the loneliness and the things that you find, the homesickness could gradually appear over the time. So that's why we have to be a little bit like have some self-awareness. Yeah, maybe sometimes that we find that a little bit like we have to go to talk to the people, because we find that, a little bit things coming up and makes me like miss your home or whatever. Maybe give a call to your parents or your family. What did you do like to cope with those kind of loneliness?
I think definitely having people to talk to is most important. For me, I call my mom like not every day, but as much as I can. Just also because while I know that it's a big transition for me, it's also a big transition for her to not have me in the house anymore, because I've been with her for like 20 years and suddenly I disappear, and like there's not this noisy girl in the house anymore. But so I do try to call her and talk to her and like just share things about my life and hear about her life as well. And I think it's also important to find communities in my new space. So I was lucky enough that I was able to find a group of friends. So obviously I do make a lot of friends who are like from the UK, and new people that I wouldn't have met if I was back home, which is all great new experiences. But I managed to find a group of friends that are also Singaporean, and because of that we had a lot of common topics and we were able to bond, and we have some common experiences that we share, and made the whole process feel a lot less lonely, because I know that I have this group of people who really understand me and like, you know, are similar to where I'm from. But at the same time, I guess for university, I didn't really feel the overwhelmingness of the transition in the sense of like additional workload, because I think I just tend to be someone who makes myself very busy, even through college and all of that. Like I joined a large number of societies. I'm always doing too many things. So I guess that transition for university didn't really feel as big. But I think when it was bigger for me was when I was transitioning from a college student to my gap year, when I had to go to work. So I interned at like a charity, like a youth development charity, and it was really busy. So I had to do stuff like admin work and also go down to schools to run programs. It's a very different set of skills, because when you're a college student, all you're doing is really mugging for exams. And I did IB, so obviously I had to write research papers and study. And I had a society, so I did like do some amount of admin work and other things like that before. But I think in a work context, it was really different. It was really overwhelming having to like answer to a boss, and I know that she had very high expectations of me because I feel like I oversold myself. Like on my resume, I was like, oh, I was in this and I did that, and I had this leadership position. So it felt like, oh, she has really high expectations for me, and now I need to meet those expectations, and it's very stressful and very difficult. And at the point in time, I did feel that loneliness, and it was very different because it wasn't like a school context where your friends are all like studying the same thing and you can ask for help.
You're on the same page with each other, but now you're stepping into the world of adults, and then there are lots of things that you have to face on your own. So I was also lucky that my supervisor, well, I did work in a youth development charity and I was considered a youth, so I was also very well supported, and my supervisor did talk to me quite a bit. We had like a lot of debrief sessions, reflections, we talked about so that was a very supportive environment, and it actually helped me to kind of have a lot of like reflective mindset and learn how to like journal and debrief myself when I didn't have someone to talk to understand a bit more about how I process my thoughts and emotions, because some of the work that we did was quite emotionally overwhelming as well, like when you're working with youths who have more difficult backgrounds and they share difficult things with you. So having to deal with that, I think I did learn a lot about myself as well, and realize some of my own issues that I have with how I work and how sometimes, you know, I'm not very kind to myself. And I think that a lot of this self-awareness that you're talking about, you shared about how self-awareness is important, I think that helped me to transition a lot better into university, having these, you know, abilities to journal and process things on my own, even in times where I feel like I don't really have people to talk to. You get to the points like I really appreciate, because you try to frame the whole transition process from the external aspect to the internal aspect. That's what we're trying to talk about. Like we're not saying that you can cope with those kind of like loneliness or hopelessness over the transition period, but the things like we have to take care of take care of ourselves from the external aspect to the internal. For example, like what you've been saying, the external aspect is trying to explore the community and try to meet more new friends and getting used to the new community and try not to just stay in your own comfort zone. That's a very, very important thing. But sometimes we're just talking about like try not to rush too much, because that's what I've been doing as well. When no matter it's like transitioning to this university or transition from one country to another country, I always try to ask myself, like, you have to keep up the pace and try to incorporate yourself into
do as much as possible, as quickly as possible.
Exactly, and try to get to know the people in the community faster, and try to ask myself, like, you have to know about the culture here as soon as you can. But then it could be very stressful, honestly. But I do understand, like, for example, like, as a university student, probably you have like 3 or 4 years over here. Then probably you and even, I mean, some of the students share with us, like, she's a master student and she is only like spending 1 year over here being an international student. So they just find time is not enough. And that's why they try to rush a little bit and want to hurry up all the things. But then it could be overwhelming. So it's stressful, and it makes you a little bit more anxious. So from the external aspect, now we're coming back to the internal. So that's just like what you said, you have to take care of your own well-being. Well, what we're trying to talk about is like be more self-compassionate. We're not superhero, we're not superwoman or superman. So sometimes we have to slow down a little bit and try to get in touch with our inner child, or it can be something like the inner voice as well. Just talk to ourselves like, oh, how are you today? For example, like, oh, Enne is okay today, and try to give yourself a little bit confidence. You know what I mean? Do you do any like small things to add as a self-care for yourself?
Self-care for myself. Yeah, actually, I think I do get into that trap a lot, like the doing things too quickly, too much, and then I get really stressed and overwhelmed. I think for me, I don't really notice it I've been getting better at noticing it, but at the start I don't really notice it until it gets to a point where like, oh my gosh, I'm right about to burn out. And then when I do that, I am able to give myself like a longer break. So what my life ends up looking like is like 2-3 weeks of like rushing, doing everything. My schedule is down from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Oh,
and then I give myself a weekend off where I'm just lying in bed and doing nothing, and I think that's helpful. But yeah, you're right, like I realized afterwards that it wasn't really healthy, and so being able to incorporate more like things like journaling and just having my friends check in on me just to talk a little bit and just let loose some of the stress that I have to share with them what's happening. And I think for some people as well, this self-compassion can also come up with like faith practices. Like if you pray, or if you like, you know, spend some time doing something spiritual to take care of yourself. I think for me, something that helps is also listening to music, or like doing something artistic, something creative, because I've always liked doing that. And I used to run a lot, and I think that helped with stress release. I started being too lazy to run a lot.
Me too. I'm going to remind myself like I need to do some exercise as well.
But yeah, I do think exercise and like creative things are helpful. And I tend to switch hobbies quite a bit, so I do like a variety of different things like that.
That's cool. You know, I think that there are lots of things that we can do for self-care, especially the things that you find that you're interested in. I just find that sometimes maybe students, or personally, sometimes you know what, my child is always reminding me, Mom, you know what, you're so good at doing work, but you're not good at being happy, or you're not good at trying to play with me. I said, oh my goodness, you're such a good reminder from a child of 9 and telling me and reminding me as an adult, and I started to stop for a while and telling me like, what are you doing? What kind of things that are making you so rushed? There is nothing to become. I mean, there is nothing have to be perfect. Well, time is not enough for everyone. 24 hours a day. No one's going to have like 30 hours or 36 hours. But it's all about like how you're going to try to use your 24 hours nicely. You know what I mean? Sometimes maybe you find that maybe 8 hours not enough, but try to do it maybe the other day or the other 2 days, trying to break it down into different small parts. That's what we've been talking about, like focus plan, goal breaking, and then especially for a student, like if you're going to do maybe you have to finish your dissertation or your coursework within a very short period of time, then probably you need to have a better planning ahead. Do you have any similar experience can share with us?
With like planning, I think one of the things that you said that really struck me was about your child telling you need to. So I think I've been told by people, you really need to learn how to relax. Like, you need to learn how to chill. Can you chill? Because I cannot chill.
Me too.
I am like incapable of chilling. Everything that I do, I'm just going like hard until I burn out. Or, like,
you have like a checklist and you're like tick.
Like everything needs to be perfect. So I think learning to relax has to be one of like the biggest struggles when, especially when it comes to when things get more overwhelming and you're transitioning. So yeah, I think it's still a process. I'm still learning. I don't think there's like a fixed like structure ABC and then you magically learn how to relax, but just slowly being able to talk to myself more nicely and telling myself it's fine to rest and take a break. I think that is helpful. And like you said, planning. So I actually have ADHD, so I tend to try to force myself to plan things very like nicely. Otherwise, if I don't have that plan, I will not get anything done, or I will just get lost in everything I need to do. I'll do ABC at the same time and then not finish any of them. So yeah, I think that planning is really important. And for me, something that helps is Google Calendar and like also having to-do lists. But there are still a lot of times where I just forget that my calendar exists, or like because I do the thing where I repeat events weekly in my calendar, because usually I try to keep my schedule as similar as possible. So when things change and get different, then I get overwhelmed again and my plan isn't planned anymore. And like for the past 2 weeks, I have not been looking at my Google Calendar because I know it's wrong and I haven't been updating it. But yeah, I think forcing myself to sometimes weekly have that time to look back at my calendar, look back at my plan, and to see what I can update is definitely very helpful, so that I do kind of have a sense of what I'm doing. But I think for me, it's more of an opposite problem of like, how do I adapt when my plan has to change? Like if I have to suddenly do something that wasn't originally in my plan, like if I have an extra rehearsal for something that I signed up for, or if one of my friends need help and I don't have that time to do my work, when am I going to squeeze in the extra time? So I think that is what I kind of had to learn a bit more of, how to be more adaptable and not to beat myself up over not having that 2 hours to finish my work because I was talking to my friend because she needed help.
Yeah. You know what? Being adaptable is a lifelong learning, honestly. Because being flexible is something that really precious, but it has to be practiced. I think it has to be practiced, especially when we're trying to achieve or when we're trying to do the best that we can. Then probably we will ask us to meet the very high standard that we want to meet. We want to do it up to. But then sometimes it's like what we have to do is like remind ourselves we are still a human being.
Yeah.
We have to be just like back to the thing. I'm always looking back to the thing that be self-compassionate.
Yeah.
And then we show more mercy to ourselves. Like we can't do everything. We're not robots.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like whenever you're facing something, maybe it's not happening like what we expected. We may need to take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Before you're trying to think about, okay, fine, so it's not going to work like my planning.
Yeah.
So what can I do for next? Or is it only my own business, or can I try to find someone to support me?
Yeah.
Or trying to find some advice from for example, study, go to the academic support or go to the well-being officer, or trying to ask somebody to help us. It could be very helpful. Because sometimes I think it's the biggest struggle is like the students, sometimes they hesitate to seek help from the others.
Yeah.
And they just think that, oh my goodness, I'm being an adult now and I have to deal with all the things myself. Well, come on, try not to do like this, because we're living in community. We should be supported by each other. And whenever you find that, oh my goodness, I cannot do it anymore, I just get stuck, just reach help.
Yeah.
Pause at Uni is a place like this.
Yeah.
We're trying to, we always encourage students to come to us, like ask for some, maybe we talk about your concerns and we have some strategies, advice, and talk to you as well. So it's a good place for you to like start spending some time with us.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I feel like I struggle with the image of like, oh yes, I'm an adult. I need to do my own adult things now, and I need to like be responsible, and I'm not gonna, rely on other people for help. So that stops me from talking to my friends if I need them, or like talking to my mom about things that I need. But at the same time, I think it is helpful to have neutral spaces. So I do find it's a lot easier to go and like seek help or talk to people like here at Pause, or like to talk to my academic tutor if I had some stresses about school. To get over that kind of mindset that like, oh, I need to be an adult, I need to do everything well. But it is helpful to have neutral spaces like this, so that when I am too stressed to talk to my friends, because I don't want to appear weak, someone is there to rationalize that with me and to talk about my stresses with.
Yeah, that's a very good thing. Like, just bear in mind, whenever you want to talk to, just find someone to talk to, and especially if you find friends or anyone would be helpful, just go talk to them. Yeah, it's okay. And then I'm thinking, like, we've been talking a lot for the topic of today, life transitioning. Yeah. And then we just mentioned about like some ways that we try to cope with the stress under the transitioning, which is really, really helpful. And I hope the audience listening to our podcast today is going to enjoy the topics that we'll be talking about today, isn't it? Yes, and so, well, thank you very much for coming to join me today.
It was nice to share about everything and hear about your experience as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
What a great conversation by Joe and Enne. Now, if listening to that conversation triggered something on the inside of you, then I suggest you go and speak with your campus's wellbeing team. If they're not available, perhaps you want to make use of the contact details for Samaritans or Papyrus that are in the description down below. It's really important you keep yourself safe. Thank you for tuning in, and stay looking out for the next episode. Thanks.